Ladies and gentlemen, this is hilarious. I usually start off my segments that way when speaking about the Democratic Party. It's pretty amusing. Democrats have already declared a mistrial, okay? This is the same Democratic Party that lost numbers in terms of latest polls regarding impeachment. They actually got a focus group to get to inform them that, the average American knows what bribery is, but not really quid pro quo. So just say that he committed bribery. Polls show that there's less support for impeachment. I think it's like by a point or 2 points, but still, after impeachment, more Americans favored impeachment before the hearings than after. That should tell you something. That should tell you that they're complete failures, even at being corrupt. Anyway, because you can't impeach. They have no evidence that Trump was afraid of Biden, so he wanted to investigate Biden by withholding money that eventually, lethal aid that President Obama did not give, not to the Ukraine. But the notion that anyone would be afraid of, even Cornflakes isn't afraid of Biden anymore. So, I don't even know if Cornflakes ever was, but, Biden said he beat Cornflakes and Captain Crunch and all that. And he said a whole lot of things. It's going to be Clinton versus Trump. It's not going to be Biden. Trump knows this. He understands that it's a political machine. That's why he was kind of egging on Madam Secretary and saying, why don't you enter the race? Because he knows. He knows what's going on. So anyway, Democratic Representative Jackie Speier is ready to declare a mistrial before impeachment even goes to Senate. Democratic California Representative Jackie Speier, and by the way, Schumer said the same type of thing, said Tuesday that impeachment might be heading for a mistrial before it even gets to the Senate. Well, I don't even know if you have the votes to do any. I don't know if Democrats would have the votes to do anything. But anyway, Speier made the comment to CNN's Jake Tapper, of course, claiming that Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell should be made to recuse himself. How come Attorney General Loretta Lynch didn't recuse herself when she allegedly told Comey to call his criminal probe of Clinton's servers with top secret intel a matter? How come Eric Holder never recused himself? How come they wanted William Barr to recuse himself? How come Schumer doesn't recuse himself? Or what? How come Adam Schiff and Gerald Nadler don't recuse themselves with all the statements prior to President Trump being elected? How come Peter Strzok never recused himself after when he was stating, we will stop Trump? And then, of course, how come Andrew McCabe never recused himself after his spouse received hundreds of thousands of dollars from Virginia Democrat Terry McAuliffe, governor, and Democratic PACs? So you Democrats love to point the finger. You must recuse. You're not impartial. Then when Peter Strzok says we will stop Trump, or Kevin Kleinsmith deliberately omits and fabricates, falsifies evidence in a FISA application, oh well, that's a mistake. You know how that goes. Well, of course, a person can still do their job without, being influenced by their political views. That's why the biggest, most duplicitous, disingenuous hypocrites on the planet. Speier made the comment to CNN's Jake Tapper, claiming the Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell should be made to recuse himself. We're going to have to call for a mistrial before it ever gets over to the Senate. She said, referencing McConnell's own admission that he would not be an impartial juror in an impeachment trial. That's because of course he's not an impartial juror. It's not really a court trial. It is, but it isn't. You're not talking about a criminal act that took place. Bill Clinton actually committed a criminal act, not what he did in the Oval Office. Oh, that was so not criminal at all. If that was wrong, I don't want to be right. No, the lying about what he did. What he did is not criminal. The lying about it and then obstruction of justice. So we're going to have to call a mistrial before it ever gets to the Senate, Representative Jackie Speier says in response to House Majority Leader stating that he is not an impartial juror. I love how these Democrats are like, you mean McConnell's not an impartial juror? You mean Pelosi is not an impartial, leader of the House? You mean Emperor Swalwell wasn't impartial? I mean, it's like, nobody is impartial or neutral. They're not even impartial or neutral to Bernie Sanders, which, by the way, I am the only person in all of YouTube to go, I don't know, probably 2,300 straight videos bringing up the fact that Bernie Sanders was cheated. I'm like the Lou Gehrig of a person saying Bernie was cheated on YouTube. I mean, every single day I say the same things. Bernie was cheated, top secret intelligence on servers, Clinton 2020 is a reality, get ready for 8 years of Trump, and we can go on forever. But anyway, that's my article below in the Federalist. Oh, that's right. Did I tell you that Clinton is going to be nominee? The no malarkey bus tour is running out of fuel. But anyway, McConnell told reporters Tuesday that the entire process was political and that he could not be expected to be impartial. I'm not an impartial juror. This is a political process. I'm not impartial about this at all. I love this. At the start of impeachment trial, senators must take a special oath to do impartial justice. This is Senator Angus King. Okay, look. This grandstanding nobody cares about. Nobody cares about this grandstanding. Nobody cares about the false pomp and circumstance and bravado and appeal to... They're appealing to American history or to these lofty ideals. The Senate leader who's Republican has to be impartial. What about Pelosi? You think Pelosi's number one job isn't to ensure that Trump doesn't make it a second term? No, she's so impartial. Yeah. What about by the way, there's this absurd notion that when you point out the hypocrisy of Democrats, they say, whataboutism. And then they say, well, Kushner used WhatsApp. Well, that's it. Whataboutism. Oh, well, according to the New York Times, President Trump gave a foreign leader classified information. Yeah, according to the New York Times source, there's no evidence of that. And there's no evidence he called a country a bad word. There's no evidence of anything, really. There's no evidence of the Steele dossier because it was all made up. Democrats have the public relations advantage, and they still can't. Trump supporters, independents, and conservatives, and I'm not talking about establishment Republicans, but even they also, but media, Hollywood, the Democratic Party, the music industry, everything. I mean, public relations, every major newspaper, the society is inundated by the biggest, you're talking about journalists who are really activists. And in many cases, they're the biggest imbeciles on the planet. And still they couldn't cheat Trump because they managed to cheat Bernie, but Bernie doesn't fight back. He doesn't fight back. You know what? Imagine, this election, they could actually, cheat him. And guess what? Nothing's going to happen. You want to know why? Because, that's right. He was cheated in 2016 and nothing happened. And they still convinced themselves, and I understand the rationale. They convinced themselves that it'll be fair this time, that Bernie could still win. The only chance that he had was in 2016 when I said he had a chance to win. Other than that, he has no chance to win. No chance to win. Because Elizabeth Warren is there splitting his movement, which is now a bowel movement, into two. That's it. And the No Malarkey bus tour, nobody knows who's wearing a No Malarkey shirt. If Joe Biden came to your town, how many people would rush to see him? How many people would pay $100 to see Joe Biden? I know a lot of people who would pay $100 to see Trump. How many people would pay $100 to see Hillary Clinton? Not many at all. But, well, actually, maybe. But there are a lot more people who would pay $100 to see Trump. There are people actually who would pay $100 to see Hillary Clinton. There are people also who would pay $100 to see Bernie Sanders. The thing is, the average Bernie Sanders voter doesn't have the $100 to give. Actually, unfortunately, they gave hundreds and $25, and it all went to the DNC. So I can't understand how you have a movement that's going to fight the 1% that doesn't even fight, that can't even stand up to Debbie Wasserman Schultz or the DNC or Clinton. But whatever. The only person who can save the Democratic Party right now is Hillary Clinton. What I mean by that is momentarily. they would get absolutely decimated if it was Biden, or because the impeachment trial really is about Biden and his son. It's not about Trump. Because Trump had a reason to investigate the DNC, Chalupa, and Biden, and it's, Hunter Biden's activities in addition to the money he got from Burisma, in addition to the fact that President Zelensky stated there was no leverage to investigate Biden. They're already investigating Burisma right now. So when you have Joe Biden telling another country to fire a prosecutor based on corruption, that he's not looking into corruption enough, and then President Trump says, we didn't withhold the money because I'm afraid of Biden. We withheld the money because of the corruption there. Then you get Democrats saying, you can't say that. No, that makes no sense. That's actually Biden's defense as to why he literally engaged in a quid pro quo and strong-armed and pressured Ukrainian officials. If you do not fire this prosecutor, who just happens to be looking at my son's the corporation funneling millions to my son, what a coincidence. If you do not do this, you will not get the billion. Then you have Maria Ivanovich saying, we know that under President Obama's administration, they didn't, they gave us talking points. They knew that there were conflicts of interest, and they gave us talking points in case anybody asked about Hunter Biden. So the notion that President Trump had no reason to investigate is nonsense. Of course he had reason to investigate. Even John Kasich, who can't stand Trump, Republican, he's one of the never-Trumpers. Even he said, it's true that there are, conflicts of interest there. But, the real issue is Trump's personality. It's like, no, no, it's not. I love these, Mitt Romneys and John Kasich and who's the Kellyanne Conway's husband. They're hilarious. They're hilarious. It's like... They're hilarious. They really think that Democrats really respect them. Here's a newsflash. They don't. Here's a newsflash to Mitt Romney and to Kasich and to, what's his name? Kellyanne Conway's husband. He's almost certainly playing this game, but to any Republican, Democrats don't respect you at all. No. They're not even using you for anything because it's not like a Republican that tries to pander to Democrats is useless to both Democrats and Republicans. Jeff Van Drew is is hilarious because he's actually welcomed with open arms. Republicans welcome a Democrat from New Jersey with open arms, Jeff Van Drew. He's becoming a Trump Republican. When you have Kasich or Romney or Flake or Susan Collins, they're like, let's reach out. They don't care. They're only doing it. They're only stopping. They've only when you have Mitt Romney saying, I don't like Trump. That's a momentary pause from the Democratic onslaught of just, maniacal, banter and negativity and them disparaging you. Democrats really, all they do is disparage and try to mock others, try to denigrate others. That's it. Nobody cares what they think. And they do that to Bernie Sanders supporters, and they do that to Trump supporters. And then the media... You get these pundits, I'm not even going to get into it, this is kind of hilarious. So you get these pundits who are like, the corporate media is going after this pundit that wants to become a congressman. The corporate media is treating that candidate in the same manner that candidate treats all conservatives and Republicans. You have a machine that doesn't like anything to do with Bernie Sanders, doesn't like anything to do with Trump, likes only the middle. And anyway, that candidate running for Congress in California got, $20 million from venture capital for his corporation, his network. So you're not going to get money out of politics getting $20 million from venture capital. How do you think you get venture capital firms to give you money? Well, you have to give them a chart. You have to project growth rate. You might even give them a piece of your company. You might very likely you give them a piece of the corporation or future earnings or whatever. I mean, you have to give them future earnings, but they might actually own a substantial portion. That's how venture capitalists work. So you're not getting money out of politics. Venture capital firms aren't giving $20 million to progressive media networks because they want to further progressive policies. In certain respects, perhaps, but at the end of the day, it's funnel everyone back to Clinton 2020. And that's what's going to happen. You'll see. And that happened in 2016. They'll happen again. That's why they can't talk about certain things. But it doesn't matter. What do I care? I'm not even part of that world anymore on the left. It's actually better for me as a Trump supporter because I look and I see, I'm like, my God. Imagine if you were like a quarterback and your offense was looking at the defense and you saw Jerry Nadler at cornerback. And you're like, yeah, go long. I should go long. And you're like, oh, yeah, there's your favorite YouTube pundit on the left at middle linebacker. Like, yeah, you're not worried about that. You could run up the middle. You're not worried about that. Okay? So with conservatives, it's a different... With Trump supporters or people who are, I'd say, bold enough to say, yeah, Trump is a good president, okay? Or even, they might not even vote for Trump, but if they say, you know what, he's not as bad as people say he is, that's an honest viewpoint. But the left is so disingenuous that when the machine that they created turns on them, they cry foul. And here you have what they're calling a Senate mistrial. There should never have been an impeachment to begin with. Of course, well, let's put it this way. Not only should Trump be the articles of impeachment be dismissed, but they should be completely and utterly just thrown out. He should have a full exoneration in the form of an acquittal. President Trump should be completely acquitted of this. They can't prove that he was afraid of Biden and that he reached out to another country because he wanted to investigate Biden and interfere in the election. They've been interfering in the election since before the Mueller probe. The Mueller probe was an interference in the midterms and also in the 2020 election. Millions of people have been programmed to believe that he already worked with Russia. Millions of people have already been programmed, even though there was no evidence, and not only was there no evidence, but they didn't even have evidence. They didn't even have evidence to incorporate any of the to incorporate anything they found in the Mueller probe within the articles of impeachment. They found nothing, absolutely nothing. Okay, absolutely nothing. With Trump. And instead of simply saying, look, we're going to defeat Trump with policies. Here are our policies. Those are Trump's policies. They can't because there's record low unemployment. There's record low Black and Latino unemployment. The unemployment rate for Hispanic and Latino men is below the national average. Go look at the St. Louis Federal Reserve website. You can see the charts. Women, all different ethnic groups, everyone. People without a college degree. It's the lowest unemployment rate because people are working of all demographics. And Democrats are frightened beyond belief. And Democrats, the hilarious thing about Democrats is that they're buoyed, they're lifted up by people like Stephen King or Bill Maher. You know, the good, whether it's the Hollywood or literature or, music industry, these artistic and very, very famous and very accomplished and very successful liberal, quote unquote intellectuals. But the intellectual thought, the critical thinking stops when President Obama presides over the destruction of Libya. Or he drinks Flint water and says it's safe when it's really poisonous. Those two things are worse than anything Trump has ever done. Did you see what Trump said about this person? Not as bad as destroying a country with a failed NATO intervention. Sorry. And then you get, you just tried. That is why people vote Trump. They don't want to hear anymore that, it was intelligence failure. Sorry. We just destroyed a region of the world and ruined the lives of a great many Americans and tens of thousands, I don't want to say ruined the lives, affected the lives negatively of a great many Americans. To where every day they have to struggle to forget the pain or to deal with and cope with the pain of never-ending counterinsurgency conflicts that Democrats and Republicans got them in. Establishment. Trump wants to bring them home. So, God bless the men and women of our armed forces. It has nothing to do with people who are noble and sacrifice for the country. It has to do with the imbeciles like Bush, like people who never ever saw a war they don't like, but they just sit behind a desk. The theorists like Max Boot and Bill Kristol, and you have people like Cheney, Rumsfeld, you have people like Clinton. Those are two sides of the same coin. Clinton voted for every Bush quagmire and the destruction of Libya, and then you get liberal pundits saying, oh yeah, well, this same corporate media that backed Bush's interventions are now going after this candidate. It's like, wait a second, you voted for Clinton. You told people to vote for Clinton. You don't see the irony. Anyway, give me your thoughts below. Check out H.A. Goodman's other channel right this